My fiancée texted me that her friends mocked the size of her diamond and demanded a bigger one. I calmly refunded the ring and blocked her. Weeks later, her Instagram queen persona collapsed, her friends turned on her, and even her mother knocked on my door begging me not to take her back, that I proposed to my fiancée, Claire, last winter. We'd been together for almost 3 years, and while our relationship had its ups and downs, I thought we were building something real. The proposal wasn't some over-the-top Instagram spectacle, just the two of us in our favorite coffee shop, a quiet corner on a snowy evening, the ring box warm in my pocket and my hands trembling. She said yes. She cried. She hugged me so tightly I thought I'd never breathe again. That moment, I believed every word, every gesture. I wasn't rich, not by a long shot, but I'd saved for months to buy a simple yet elegant diamond ring. Nothing massive, nothing gaudy. A 1 carat stone in a platinum setting, chosen not for its price tag, but because it matched her understated style, or so I thought. For weeks after, she showed it off with pride. I caught her admiring it absent-mindedly, holding her hand up to the sunlight. Every time she did, I felt relief, like maybe I had measured up to the impossible standards set by her circle of friends. Because here's the thing, Claire's friends. Well, they weren't cruel outright, but they lived in a world of filters and flaunts. Weekend trips to Cabo, casual brunches with champagne towers, handbags that cost more than my car. I always felt like an outsider, tolerated because I made Claire happy, but never fully accepted. So when my phone buzzed one Thursday afternoon and I saw her name pop up with a message, I didn't expect it to unravel everything. The text was short, brutal in its simplicity. We need a bigger diamond. My friends are making fun of my ring. I stared at the screen for a long time. At first, I thought it was a joke. Claire's sense of humor could be dry. But then 3 dots appeared. She was still typing. I know you tried, but it looks cheap next to everyone else's. I just don't want to feel embarrassed. I deserve something better. It was like a bucket of cold water dumped on my chest. My hands shook, not with sadness at first, but with clarity. All the small red flags I'd ignored. Her subtle digs about my boring job, the way she'd light up when someone mentioned designer brands, her quiet sighs when the check came and I didn't cover everyone's drinks. Suddenly, they weren't small anymore. I could have argued. I could have begged. I could have pulled out a calculator and shown her how long I'd saved, how I'd skipped nights out, and lived frugally to make that moment possible. But what would have been the point? Instead, I typed back 3 words. Say no more. Then I slipped the ring box out of my dresser, drove back to the jeweler, and returned it. Full refund, no questions asked. The clerk even complimented me for making the smart call. On the way home, I blocked Claire's number. Her texts stopped buzzing. Her calls went straight to voicemail. And with one swipe, I cut her off from the life she thought she was upgrading from. I sat in my quiet apartment that night, staring at the now empty dresser drawer where the ring used to be. I wasn't sure if I felt heartbreak, anger, or just a strange, hollow relief. The next morning, my buddy forwarded me screenshots from Claire's group chat, the same one where my ring had been mocked. Only this time, the messages weren't about me at all. They were about her. The screenshots came to me at 7:14 a.m., just as I was pouring my first cup of coffee before work. My phone buzzed with Jason's name. He was an old buddy of mine who, once upon a time, dated one of Claire's friends. They broke up years ago, but somehow he never got removed from the girls' group chat. Normally, he just muted it and ignored the noise. That morning, though, he decided to forward it to me. His message was short. Bro, you're going to want to see this. I scrolled through the screenshots, and with every line my eyebrows lifted higher. Lindsay. Wait, so he actually gave the ring back? Maddie, you're kidding. What did you expect, Claire? That he'd just roll over and drop another 20K? Sophie. Girl, you fumbled hard. I stopped mid-sip. The same women who had snickered about my ring in the first place were now mocking her. Claire, he's being dramatic. He'll come around once he realizes I wasn't asking for that much. Lindsay. You literally told him his gift was embarrassing. You don't come back from that. Maddie. Honestly, he was the only stable guy you've ever dated. We all said that. Sophie. Yeah, and now he's gone. Congrats. I actually chuckled into my mug. Stable. That was a word I'd never thought I'd hear from her friends. The ones who treated me like the budget boyfriend because I wasn't flashing luxury vacations and Rolexes. But apparently, behind closed doors, they knew the truth. I was steady, reliable, someone who had my life together. And Claire had thrown that away over a rock. The next batch of screenshots twisted the knife further. Lindsay. Also, Claire, let's be real. The ring wasn't even small. Most of us would kill for a guy who'd save like that for us. You sounded spoiled. Maddie, not sounded. She was. Claire, you're all being unfair. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Everyone posts their rings online. Everyone compares. Do you know how humiliating it is when people zoom in and joke? Sophie, then maybe don't marry someone just for what he can buy you? I must have read that last line a dozen times. It was almost poetic. Coming from Sophie of all people, the loudest, flashiest one of them, it landed like a verdict. Jason's final text said, "Looks like she's not the queen bee she thought she was. Thought you'd want closure." For the rest of the morning, I went about my day like usual, emails, client calls, lunch at my desk. But in the back of my head, the screenshots played like a reel. What struck me most wasn't the betrayal. By then, the sting of her texts had faded into numbness. It was the irony. Claire had spent so much of our relationship chasing validation from her circle, desperately curating a life that looked shiny enough to keep up. And in the end, it was that same circle that tore her down. I didn't unblock her number. Didn't write some cathartic reply. Didn't even tell her I knew. What was the point? The silence was punishment enough. By Friday, word had spread. A mutual friend, let's call her Dana, messaged me privately. "So, I heard you two broke up? Claire isn't taking it well. She says you humiliated her." I answered simply. I gave her exactly what she asked for. Nothing more, nothing less. That weekend, the engagement party her mom had been planning was canceled. No big announcements, no explanations, just gone from the calendar. And Claire's Instagram, once a feed of filtered selfies with captions like "lucky girl, lucky life," and "my forever," went silent. No posts, no stories, not even her usual morning coffee boomerangs. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt detached, like I'd stepped out of a storm into a quiet room. Still, there was one screenshot I kept going back to. The last thing Claire wrote in the chat before she stopped replying. I thought he'd fight for me. That was the moment I realized she hadn't wanted a bigger ring. She'd wanted proof I'd debase myself to prove I was worthy of her standards. And when I didn't, when I simply walked away, she was left with nothing but the silence she didn't know how to fill. I didn't need to fight for her. I needed to fight for myself. Update 1.it had been about 3 weeks since the breakup. 3 weeks since I walked into that jewelry store with an engagement ring in my pocket and walked out with a refund receipt instead. 3 weeks since I blocked Claire's number and cut off the path back to me that she probably assumed would always be open. At first, it was quiet, eerily quiet. No texts, no calls, no arguments. My apartment felt lighter, my evenings freer, my thoughts sharper. I slept through the night without tossing and turning, without replaying arguments in my head, without staring at the ceiling wondering if I was enough. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. But peace has a way of drawing attention to itself. And soon enough, the cracks in that silence started to show. The friend infiltration. The first sign came through mutual friends. It was subtle at first, like someone trying to test the lock on a door. Dana, one of her close girlfriends, texted me out of nowhere. "Hey, I don't want to get in the middle, but Claire's really been asking about you. She says she regrets what happened. Maybe you two should talk." I left it on read. 2 days later, Chris, a buddy of mine who never really liked Claire, messaged, "Man, Claire's been blowing up my phone. She keeps telling me to talk to you on her behalf. I told her that's between you two, but she won't drop it. Thought you should know." Even her mother, yes, her mother, sent me a long message on Facebook about how every couple has rough patches and how a good man forgives a woman's mistakes. She finished with, "You don't throw away years together over one bad conversation. Please consider giving her another chance." I didn't reply, not to any of them. The silence was my message, and it was louder than anything I could have said. The social media spiral. Then came the Instagram phase. Claire had always been addicted to posting, but now every photo, every caption, every story felt like it was aimed squarely at me. At first, it was vague, cryptic quotes plastered over pastel backgrounds. Sometimes people don't realize what they had until it's gone. Strong women don't beg, they rebuild. Then came the selfies. Black and white. Tears streaked down her face, mascara smudged just enough to look artistic. Captioned, "When you realize your pride cost you your soulmate." And of course, the comments section was a battlefield. Half her friends flooded it with heart emojis, telling her she was too good for him, and that he'll come crawling back. But the other half, the ones who had seen the way she treated me, were blunt. "Maybe you should reflect on how you handled things. A ring doesn't make the man. Respect does. You can't build a marriage on entitlement." Those comments stung her. I could tell, because the next wave of posts got angrier. Funny how some men act like they're saints when really they're just cowards who couldn't handle a strong woman. It was ironic. She thought these posts painted her as empowered, but to anyone watching closely, it was clear she was unraveling. The desperation phase. One night, around 11:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with a WhatsApp notification. It was from an unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it, but the preview caught my eye. "I just want to talk. Please. Just 5 minutes. I miss you." It was her. A new number. A new attempt. I stared at the screen, toothbrush still in my mouth. For a split second, I almost felt the tug, the memory of our early days, the laughs, the plans we once made. But then I remembered the way she sneered at my ring, the way she measured my worth against carats, the way she made me feel small in front of her friends. Without replying, I hit block. And just like that, the silence returned. The mutual fallout. Of course, walking away from someone isn't just about ignoring their texts. It shifts your entire social circle. Mutual friends started choosing sides. A few drifted away, clearly more loyal to her than to me. But others quietly reached out to say they respected my decision. One guy even admitted, "Dude, honestly, we were waiting for you to wake up. She treated you like a credit card with legs." That hit me harder than I expected. People had seen it. They had noticed. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I had simply been too deep in it to realize how bad it looked from the outside. The turning point. The final straw came about a month after the breakup. I was tagged in a photo on Instagram, a group outing with mutual friends. Claire wasn't there. But in the comments, someone had written, "Where's Claire? Thought you two were joined at the hip." And one of our mutuals, instead of dodging, replied with brutal honesty. "He upgraded. She downgraded. End of story." Claire saw it. I know because the next day, another unknown number tried texting me. "You don't understand how much you mean to me. I messed up. Please let me explain." Again, blocked. Because here's the truth. Claire didn't miss me. She missed the stability. The lifestyle. The quiet way I used to pick up the check, cover the rent, plan for the future, smooth over the cracks. She didn't want me back. She wanted the version of me who was willing to keep enabling her insecurities. And that man, he was gone the moment she told me my worth depended on the size of a diamond. Final update. 2 months after the breakup. I thought the storm had passed. Claire's desperate attempts had slowed, the burner numbers had stopped, and her Instagram had gone quiet. For the first time, I felt like I was steering my life without the shadow of her entitlement trailing behind me. But storms don't vanish. They circle back, sometimes louder than before. The call that said it all. It was a Wednesday night when my phone rang. The caller ID flashed a name I hadn't seen in a while. Marcus, one of our old mutual friends. "Hey man," he said carefully, his tone somewhere between awkward and urgent. "Look, I didn't want to get in the middle, but you need to know Claire's been running her mouth again." I sighed. "What now?" "She's telling people you were broke, that you couldn't handle her lifestyle. She's spinning it like you dumped her because you couldn't keep up." I laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Of course she is. Thing is," Marcus continued, "nobody's buying it anymore. Her own cousin called her out last night. Said she should be embarrassed after how she treated you. It was brutal." She stormed out of the bar crying. That's when it hit me. The narrative was shifting. My silence had left a vacuum, and in that vacuum, truth was filling the space. The cracks in her kingdom. I didn't follow Claire online, but word of her unraveling reached me anyway. Screenshots landed in my DMs from people I barely talked to. One showed her posting a photo of herself holding a drink in a dimly lit club with the caption, "New chapter. No more boys, only kings." The comments told a different story. "Didn't your king just ghost you? Maybe stop treating men like wallets." Respect goes both ways, Claire. The likes on her posts were dwindling. The same friends who used to hype her up were going radio silent. One by one, her support system was crumbling, and I hadn't lifted a finger. the mother's U-turn. Then came the real curveball, a knock on my door. When I opened it, I found Claire's mom standing there, clutching a casserole dish and looking 10 years older than when I last saw her. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. I hesitated but stepped aside. She set the dish down on my counter, took a deep breath, and said, "I owe you an apology." That caught me off guard. She went on to explain how Claire had been spiraling, maxing out credit cards, bouncing between short-lived flings, crying about how no one respected her. I defended her at first, her mom admitted, eyes wet. I told myself she was just hurt. But then I started hearing the way she twisted the story, how she mocked you, how she minimized everything you did for her. And I realized you were the only one keeping her grounded. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth was already heavy enough. "Please don't take her back," her mom finished. "Not unless she truly changes. She doesn't deserve to drag you down again." It was surreal, her own mother asking me to stay away. The breaking point. The final act of Claire's downfall came during what should have been her comeback attempt. She hosted a small girls' night at her apartment, which I later heard about from a mutual. She had apparently borrowed money from two different friends just to fund it. Wine, takeout, decorations, the works. It was her attempt to reclaim her image, to show she was still the confident, desirable queen she portrayed online. But halfway through the evening, someone pulled up her old Instagram posts, the ones mocking me, the ones flaunting her independence. And then another girl, drunk but sharp, asked, "So if you're so independent, why are you Venmo requesting us for pizza money?" That question spread through the room like wildfire. Laughter followed. Not the good kind, the cruel, cutting kind. By the next morning, Claire's Instagram was deactivated. The last text. A week later, another unknown number slipped past my block list. The message was long. Desperate. "I don't recognize myself anymore. I thought I was strong, but I was just selfish. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it away because I wanted to show off. I don't want the lifestyle. I don't want the ring. I just want you. Please, can we meet?" I read it twice, maybe 3 times. For a flicker of a second, I felt the old ache. The memories of our laughter, the plans we had, the nights we stayed up dreaming about the future. But then I remembered the sneer on her face when she called my ring too small. The way she measured love in diamonds, not devotion. I blocked the number. Where I am now. Today, I sit in a modest but comfortable apartment that I pay for myself, surrounded by things I've chosen, not to impress anyone, not to meet expectations, but because they make me happy. I'm not dating yet, but I'm not closed off either. I'm learning to enjoy my own company, to build a life that doesn't revolve around someone else's approval. And the more I do, the lighter I feel. As for Claire, last I heard, she's living back at her mom's house. No job, no savings. Her once loyal friend group has scattered. The girl who demanded a bigger diamond is now struggling to afford rent. It's ironic. She thought the size of a ring defined her worth. But in the end, it wasn't the diamond that mattered. It was the silence. My silence. And it turned out to be far heavier than any carrot she ever dreamed of.